Hey, Space Watchers, and welcome back here from Berlin. So today is Planet on the Road, and it happened now behind us. We are almost done with this day, and we had fantastic presentation, fantastic new insights, what's coming from Planet. And we heard a number of use cases, and one use case I alluded this morning in my intro already was from Bellingcat, and I'm now having the great honor to have Galen Reich here from Bellingcat. Galen, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well, thank you. I've had a really fantastic time so far. I'm enjoying myself at the event. It's fantastic to see the many different applications and getting to share Bellingcat's applications as well.
Tell our audience more about Bellingcat. What is it, and why did you hit the wire so hard?
Absolutely, yes. So Bellingcat is an open source investigative collective, essentially. We're comprised of citizen journalists, open source researchers, and technologists. Yeah. I fall into the latter category. I'm a technologist, and so I'm always on the lookout for new technologies and new ways to tell our stories. And all of our stories are about using open source data and open source methods to investigate things.
So what does it mean? And what does it connect here to Planet? I mean, Planet's data are not known for open source, and they're also for a price. So how do you work with them, and what brings you over here to this event?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, when we talk about Bellingcat open source, what we mean is, in principle, available information that is available to the public.
Okay.
So that means that anyone in your audience, they can sign up with Planet and they can pay for imagery. Of course, as an outlet, we don't want to have our audience paying for imagery, so we also publish the imagery in our articles. But we use imagery for a huge range of things. We use imagery for providing geolocation context. So if there's been a photograph taken by someone on the ground and we want to figure out where that photograph was taken, we can compare details in satellite images with images on the ground to try and get a better picture and verify where that image was taken. But that's just the beginning, really. We use it for a whole bunch of stuff. In my presentation, I was able to talk about some befores and afters. So where we have some event that's taken place and we can show a satellite image from Planet that was taken before the event and then shortly after. We have a story live at the moment that was from last month about deadly flooding in the Beijing region of China. And in that you can see before and after images of this terrible flood, and you can see the scale of destruction that it caused.
When you talk about investigative journalism, it sounds going after the unknown things that are not mainstream media. So when you talk about floodings or so, that's something that is very obvious that makes it to the mainstream media, and you just use this imageries for the verification. But how are you doing, or how do you go after the unknown stories? And I mean, maybe you can allude to one or two stories that you have done and where you used actually imagery.
Absolutely. So I think one example that I think Bellingcat was fairly leading in was a Russian grain smuggling story. So I think it was back in 2023 where some vessels were floating around in the Black Sea before turning off their ship tracking data. So they go invisible to ship tracking services. And with Planet information, we had a good idea of where they might be going, to a sanctioned port in occupied Crimea. And indeed, we found through a Planet tasking of that port at Sevastopol that ship was indeed there loading up on grain from the territory. And so what we're able to do is we're able to go after these clandestine operations using this open data, and we publish those stories, and we've, as a result of those, found several vessels that we investigated are now the subject of individual sanctions, which makes it much harder for those companies to operate and do business.
Asked Planet to task their satellites, or how did it work?
In this particular story, there've been several instances of this over the years. I think in the original story, it was started out as a partnership with Planet, where we were investigating this port and trying to see, hey, are the sanctions effective? And it turns out that out of a year's worth of imagery, we found on, I think, roughly 40% of days, we could confirm that there was a ship there with Planet imagery alone. So that was a close partnership with Planet, and then since then, Bellingcat has published several stories about vessels doing a similar thing, loading grain at the port in Sevastopol.
So what is the next thing we can expect from you guys?
The next,
just between us.
Of course, no. The next thing you can expect, I know that from a technological perspective, I'm really interested in using multispectral imagery.
Yeah.
I have a background in radar, and I'm particularly keen to try and find some use cases for synthetic aperture radar imagery, which of course over optical imagery has the benefit that you can see through clouds. So if you're investigating a particularly cloudy part of the world, perhaps there's something really valuable there. So look on the lookout for use cases, on the lookout for stories that can make use of that remote sensing data.
Maybe that's a call to our audience. You mentioned, hey, if our audience wants to join, maybe you can help us where to find, where to apply, what are you looking for. So your time.
Okay, thank you so much. So at Bellingcat we have a really extensive volunteer community and community surrounding Bellingcat. Sometimes it's students who are looking to cut their teeth and figure out the world of open source research, but other times it's folk who are industrial professionals. Some people who are working as software developers for fintech and want to find a different way to contribute as well. So we have this entire community that surrounds Bellingcat, and anyone who's interested in sharing their expertise, sharing their knowledge, sharing their time, or bringing their unique perspectives, you should find us, go to bellingcat.com, and you can find all the information about our various communities. We mostly convene on Discord.
Great. Galen, thank you very much for your time, and that's very interesting, very valuable insights. With that, Space Watch out.